Let's kick things off with a name that practically screams ancient conquest, marching armies, and, well, dark, impenetrable dungeons. Alexander the Great. It's a name that carries some serious weight across history. But what happens when the formidable legacy of a Macedonian conqueror literally collides with the quiet, intricate architecture of central Iran? Well, you get one of the most captivating mysteries in architectural history, sitting right in the heart of Yazd. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're putting on our historical detective hats to uncover the truth behind one of Iran's absolute most fascinating urban legends. Did Alexander the Great actually build a prison in Yazd? Or has history, and honestly a lot of local folklore, just played a massive trick on us for centuries? To figure this out, we're going to look past the whispers and examine the hard, physical evidence left behind in the mortar and brick. You know, what's totally wild here is the massive cognitive dissonance between the terrifying legend and the scholarly reality of the site. On the one hand, you have the myth, Zendane Eskandar, or Alexander's prison. I mean, even the name just reeks of despair, right? But on the other hand, the documented reality is Madrase Ziaei, a peaceful school. How on earth does a place meant for illumination and study get branded for centuries as a dark, oppressive dungeon? To understand that, we really have to understand the power of a good campfire story. For generations, rumors just spread like wildfire around this site, attributing the whole structure to Alexander the Macedonian during his ancient invasion of Iran. Local lore painted this incredibly vivid, intimidating picture of a grim prison built to hold the enemies of a foreign conqueror, a place of shadows and suffering that was supposedly only much later converted into a place of learning. It's a super captivating story, the kind that gets passed down from parent to child, and it completely shaped the identity of the building in the minds of the locals. Okay, so here is the truth bomb. This building, it's actually the Ziaei School. It's an absolute architectural masterpiece, boasting roughly 1,000 years of history, and it is completely unrelated to the Macedonian conqueror. Zero connection. If you're walking through the historic Fahadan neighborhood of Yazd today, right near the famous 12 Imams tomb, this is what you're actually standing in front of. It's a gorgeous testament to Islamic scholarship and Iranian architecture, not ancient Greek military might. Now, if we track this chronologically, the true story is honestly just as fascinating as the myth. The construction actually happened in 4 distinct stages, starting way back in the year 631 of the Hijri calendar. That's right around the really tumultuous time of the Mongol invasion. A man named Hossein Razi built the initial structure, that towering ancient dome, not as a school and definitely not as a prison, but as a tomb. Decades later, in 705 AH, his sons completed further work on it. But here's the real plot twist. It wasn't until about 200 years later, in the early 10th century, that the original builder's grandson had this genius idea to transform the site, opening a doorway and making it an active school. Fast forward to the modern era, 1346 Solar Hijri, and it was rightfully protected and registered as a National Heritage Monument. And the architectural evidence? It's stunning, and it tells the story of its true purpose perfectly. The building was constructed in the beautiful Azari architectural style. It's centered around this classic courtyard that features not just small front porches for the students' rooms, but 4 tall iwans, giving it that classic 4-iwan courtyard design. But the absolute most telling feature? The school actually had a resident teacher's house. Unlike the Ibrahim Khan School in Kerman, where you literally have to go deep inside the complex to access the teacher's quarters, here, the vestibule, the entrance hall, opens right into the teacher's house. It's a highly unique layout that completely highlights its purely educational and residential design. It was built for convenience, study, and teaching, period. You've really got to appreciate the historical irony here when you think about the interior. This was not some stark, barren cell. Originally, the interior featured stunning stucco decorations. I mean, a family poured their wealth and artistic vision into vibrantly painting these walls with expensive gold and deep blue lapis lazuli watercolors. They wanted to create this magnificent, inspiring, scholarly institution. It's incredibly ironic and honestly a bit funny that after much of this exquisite, colorful artwork naturally faded away over the centuries, locals eventually looked at the bare walls and decided, yep, this must have been a gloomy prison. To really wrap your head around the grand scale of this scholarly monument, you have to look up. 20 meters. That is how high the original dome reaches into the sky. The part first built as a tomb is this towering, elegant architectural feat that was meant to inspire awe and reverence. Definitely not the claustrophobia of a dungeon. But if you lower your gaze from that towering dome and look down into the central courtyard, you're going to find another number that starts to explain where those scary rumors came from. 4. Sitting right smack in the middle of this scholarly space is a mysterious, gaping well boasting a diameter of 4 meters. Just a massive hole in the ground right in the center of the courtyard.
And that 4-meter-wide well, it plunges straight down into a dark cellar that is a staggering 7 meters deep. 7 meters straight down into the earth. When you combine the fading of the bright gold and lapis lazuli on the walls with a massive, dark, echoing 7-meter-deep pit in the center of the building, well, you can start to see exactly the kind of sensory details that fueled those eerie prison myths for generations. It looks intimidating. If you didn't know it was a cellar literally designed to keep a school cool in a hot desert climate, ancient dungeon really isn't a terrible guess.
But as we know, guesses aren't facts, and historical detectives rely on a paper trail. If we dig into the historical text from before the Safavid era, what do we actually find about Alexander's prison in Yazd? Absolutely nothing. Crickets. The early historical records are completely silent. It's not until the Safavid era, specifically in a historical book called Ziaei School, that a building called Alexander's prison is finally mentioned. But, and here is the smoking gun, that book places the prison in a totally different neighborhood. It says Alexander's prison was located in the Shahrastan neighborhood, near the Chehel Merab Mosque, not in the Fahadan neighborhood where our school sits. So how did the record finally get set straight? It actually took the brilliant deduction of historian Muhammad Karim Purnia. By cross-referencing those historical texts from the 9th, 11th, and 14th centuries with the physical architecture of the building, Purnia became the very first person in modern history to officially correct the record. He's the guy who finally separated the myth from the masonry, proving definitively that the grand building in Fahadan is, and always was, the Ziaei School. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As we wrap up this historical explainer, I want to leave you with a question to kind of chew on. If an ancient, beautifully decorated school built by a devoted family can be entirely mistaken for a brutal conqueror's prison for hundreds of years, what other historical truths in our own cities are just waiting to be challenged? The next time you walk past an ancient monument, remember the Ziaei School and ask yourself, what is the real story behind these walls? Thanks for exploring with me today, and hey, keep questioning the history around you.